Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm just going to be doing a year in review and then also talking about some 2025 changes and plans as well as some goals going forward. So this is going to be a little bit of a different type of video, but hopefully it's something that y'all will be interested in. All right, so to start off, I wanted to review some of the product launches in 2024. There's two main products that I launched for 3D Sorcerer. It was the DLAC and Sumo enclosures. Here is the DLAC enclosure, and part of the reason why I made it the way I did was having people be able to customize it however they wanted, and I think printables is a good place to kind of see that. So you can see here people printing the parts in a lot of different colors and adding a bunch of different accessories, so that's been pretty cool to see, and overall I think it's been pretty successful. And then also kind of the same thing here for the Sumo. You can go into the makes and just see the different color combinations that people used. And overall, I think it's had a pretty good reception. It hasn't been perfect by any means, but I think that overall it's turned out pretty well and sold a decent number of them. So pretty happy with the results. And then as far as the social media stuff goes, for Instagram now I'm at around 45,000 followers, and YouTube just crossed over 30,000. TikTok's kind of lagging behind at 12,000, but really had a lot of growth in 2024 on the social media accounts, and I'm gradually getting a little more comfortable and getting my kind of video technique down. So hopefully that'll continue to grow, and I really appreciate all of you guys that have supported me. And I know some of y'all have been here since the beginning when a lot of my videos are really pretty bad, and they're still not great, but they've gotten better, and just appreciate y'all kind of following along. And then as far as the videos themselves, I've had a couple that have gotten over 1 million views this year, and there are actually 4 on YouTube, so we can just check those out real quick. So the 4 that have gotten over 1 million are these 4 here. So the weighted print with the clay was there's a lot of comments about the clay, and honestly I just thought it was kind of a good idea, or just a general kind of unique idea that other people haven't really shown before. So I made a video about it, and there's been a lot of comments about how this is a dumb idea and this and that, but honestly, like I don't really listen to comments anymore, because a lot of people don't have a lot of context when they make comments like that. It's a 60-second video, and there's a lot of more thought that goes into it than what a lot of the people leave in their comments. So for those of you that do make kind of thoughtful comments, appreciate that. I do read most of them, I just don't really respond. The magnets video is also kind of picking up recently. It's at 2 million, and I thought that was a pretty decent video, just showcasing different ways to add magnets to prints. The snap video was popular just because it kind of demonstrated a mechanism that's actually pretty interesting, and I think a lot of people just are interested in like how you actually design that. And then the stair-stepping video I felt like would do well, but it took a little while to kind of get in the algorithm, but it's now doing pretty well overall. And there's a couple other videos that are over 500,000, so that's been pretty cool. Appreciate y'all watching all these. Don't have any over 1 million on TikTok, which again, I don't really know, but why my TikTok videos don't do very well, but it is what it is. And then another kind of cool thing that happened was I was featured in a Shop Talk episode, and when I started YouTube and doing social media, I actually saw some of these Shop Talk episodes and thought it'd be really cool to be in one, and that happened. So I thought that was a neat experience, and I thought that it was an overall good video and a good interview, and hopefully it came across the right way. And if you want to watch it, be sure to check it out. And then also started a Skool Community in 2024, and it's called Fusioneers. They're actually changing the name now, and I'll talk about that more recently. We're at around 1,600, 1,700 members at this time, and hopefully the changes that I'll make will be beneficial. I was also selected for the 100 challenge, which is shown here, where essentially they picked 100 of the new Skool Community owners and wanted to do this like 90-day kind of sprint. And unfortunately, because of purchasing a house and moving and things like that, I didn't participate in it. I declined the opportunity, but it was cool to be selected as one of the 100 that they picked. There's a decently long application period, and I thought that I had a shot, and wish I could have participated. It just didn't work out for my schedule. And then some other big life events. Just personally, I became an uncle this year, which is cool. And then we purchased a house, as I mentioned, me and my wife did, so that's a big step kind of as you're getting older, and then started radiology residency UAB, so having to study a little bit more. The year before that, I was in transitional year at Brookwood, which is a hospital in Birmingham, but now I'm back at UAB doing radiology, so that's been a little bit of an adjustment, but enjoying it so far. And I thought, since I was doing this 2024 year in review, I've always enjoyed the kind of top purchases that some of the YouTube and social media people do, and I thought that I would just kind of go through mine real quick. And obviously the house was the big purchase, and it has its own studio, which is actually a basement, but it is nice to have kind of my own dedicated area. And these other 4 though are probably more approachable for people, and I think that it would be something that might interest some of you guys. So the first one is this CalDigit dock. So essentially what it is you can plug in all your different accessories. So I have camera hooked up, microphone, a charger, 3D connection mouse, monitor, a bunch of different accessories, and it also has the SD card readers, which is nice when you're uploading footage, and then some places to charge different accessories. You can see here all the stuff that's plugged in the back. It's just really nice because now I can just use this single Thunderbolt cord to hook up my laptop, and then this is all plugged up to my monitor and all the other accessories, so it's really convenient and really big improvement from hooking a bunch of stuff up to the laptop itself. And then recently I got a monitor arm for my desk, and that's been something I've really enjoyed as well. You just don't realize how much space, especially for a big monitor like this, that the stand takes up on your desk. So I've appreciated having a lot more space under there to put things. So I've really liked not having a stand that takes up a quarter of the desk. So that's another thing that I've really enjoyed recently. Another purchase that I made, actually this was probably in the middle of the year or sometime, were these Feltrite tiles. So the name of the brand is Feltrite, and these are just like acoustic panel tiles. And the thing I like about them is they're really easy to put up. You just have these little adhesive pads that go on the back, and they're removable so they don't damage your paint on the walls. If you're renting or something like that, you can still use these, and they were just made the kind of the aesthetics of my background. You can actually see them here behind my head here. It just makes your background kind of look more professional and put together, and I think it's pretty easy to use, and you don't have to buy that many of them. I mean, really, you could just buy 6, or you could probably even get away with just like 4 of these bigger ones if you sat kind of in the middle there, and it gives you kind of some detail to the background. And I thought that it was also really good for the backgrounds in my videos. So if you'll see in my short form content, especially the close-up stuff, I'll put my camera up here and then shoot down on these panels here, so it's a nice kind of clean surface to do stuff on, and they're not that expensive. So if you get something on, I'm actually going to replace this one soon because it has some stuff here, and this is just a white one for a white background. So they've been really nice and good for both videos and also just for like the headshot stuff. So I've liked purchasing those, and they have a bunch of different colors and combinations, so check them out if you're interested. Again, I'm not sponsored by any means, but I have enjoyed the product. And then the last thing that I bought this year that was really nice, and for the price I thought was a good bargain, was it's kind of a multi-purpose thing. The main thing is a tire inflator. So if you have a car or a bike with a flat tire, you can charge it up, and it's battery powered, and I think it has like 1500 milliamp hours, so it can charge like a MacBook like 2 or 3 times. You can charge your phone a bunch of times. You can charge like a drone, a lot of different things. So it serves as a battery pack, a tire inflator, and then also it has a big light on it. You can kind of see that here. So it's really a nice thing to put in your car just in case you need it at some point. So I thought that was a good gift, and also a good thing to purchase. And I actually bought it as like a dirty Santa gift, but ended up keeping it myself. So I really do think it's a good thing to have. All right, and so now I wanted to talk a little bit about 2025 and some changes I'm going to be making going forward and what I have planned. So the big thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about was changing my Skool community. So for those of you that aren't familiar, Skool is basically like this online learning platform. You can learn a bunch of different things on there. It's a bunch of communities or groups of people that are kind of interested in a certain thing. And I started one called Fusioneers a while back, as I mentioned earlier. And the idea was to share just my CAD process in a more long form kind of structure versus these short form videos that I do for Instagram and things like that. But I'm gonna make some changes to it as far as what the content covers. So originally I was doing a lot of tutorials for Fusion primarily, and kind of decided to go in a little bit of a different direction. So really just to simplify things, I renamed it and I'm going to kind of reorganize what I'm doing going forward. But for all of you that have joined and are part of the community, I really appreciate y'all's support, and I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm just making some changes to make it where I can be kind of more consistent and involved in the community. So the reason I'm making the change, really the big thing is my time constraint. So I do residency every week for about 50 hours, give or take, and depending on, whether I have call or not and whether I have to work on the weekends. So it could be more than 50 hours, but usually 50 is kind of around the minimum. And as far as residency goes in the USA, that's not really that busy. To be honest, the limit technically is 80 hours, but there's some places that are above that in a week at least. So I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying that is a pretty big time constraint. And I also have to study radiology because there's a lot to know. So that's another couple hours. And then also like to exercise, and then actually making the short form content takes some time because I have to print and record and then upload and then talk with my editor. So that's pretty involved. And then I also want to work on my actual business and then making new products. So that takes some more time, and I have to do like the logistics and bookkeeping for the business, and then also need to sleep. So with all that, I really don't have a ton of time for making the tutorials anymore. So I've decided that I'm going to kind of cut back on those for the Skool community. There's also a lot of good tutorials that are on YouTube already. That is kind of what I've learned from. So I didn't really think I was adding a whole lot there. Whereas when I come up with a new product or a new idea, I kind of explain that thought process at least. So I think that hopefully is more beneficial than just doing the tutorials. And then I also just personally prefer working on new designs and products more than the tutorials. I just enjoy that more, just being honest. And then I wanted to simplify everything. So I had Fusioneers, and I have 3D Sorcerer, and then I have my personal brand made by Jay Willis. So I wanted to kind of make all that more simplified and streamlined. So now it's just Made by Jay Willis Studio is the name of the Skool community. And then kind of the last thing was Alex Hormozy, which is this business guy that makes a lot of business oriented content. He made this video about making communities versus building a business. And, I have a fairly successful business, and essentially talks about the pros and cons of both. And I think that just long term, trying to build the business and the products is really what I want to do, just based off the video and some other things I've thought about recently. So I still want to do the community. I just don't want it to be like the primary focus going forward. But I think what I have planned, I'll be kind of just as active or even more active, just kind of documenting what I'm going to do. So one thing I did want to mention was the URL. So if we go over to the community here, you can see these are kind of the classrooms here, and you'll notice up here at the top it still says Fusioneers, and that's because Skool doesn't let you change the URL, unfortunately. So even though it's Made by Jay Willis Studio, it's still going to have Fusioneers in the URL. Hopefully they'll make that change soon, because Skool is relatively new, so they've been making changes, and there's a thread that mentions that they're going to change it relatively soon where you can change the URL. But if you see that, it just is what it is. So just wanted to mention that. And then as far as what I want to do with the Skool community, so the main thing is I want to do a weekly kind of long form content, kind of like this, where I essentially explain like my thought process behind things. So what I want to do is have, any questions from the community, I can address those in the long form content, and also just give an update on my current projects or kind of what I've been working on that week, and then talk about, things I've learned and what I have ideas for going forward. And the goal is to do those once a week, and then I'm going to post it to my main channel at Made by Jay Willis, and that's going to be kind of my long form content. And as I've kind of alluded to, I'm not going to really answer questions in the comments, but I'll answer questions from the group on Skool. So you can leave comments on YouTube or wherever you want to, and I'll read them, but I'm not going to really respond unless it's something that's through the Skool group. And I think that overall this will help me kind of stay consistent. It'll probably be a similar format to this, where I'm just presenting my thoughts and talking about certain things, and I might do some fusion related stuff as well, but it's going to be relatively low effort. It's going to be kind of like this video where I'm not really going for retention. If you're interested in it, hopefully you'll watch the whole thing, but it's not going to be super like action packed. It's going to be more of like a kind of monologue type thing. And then I also want to do some tutorials. They're not going to be the same type of tutorials I've been doing if you've been a part of the community, but I think one thing I would like to do is to continue kind of doing a long form of the short form content. So if I make a short form video, I'm probably gonna still do like a long form explanation of how I actually made the part. So the idea is, get a lot of views from the short form because it's kind of short and kind of high paced, I get, or fast paced, and then have a more slower version of that where I kind of walk step by step through the design for people that are interested. And then there'll still be free downloads, kind of like before, within the community. And one thing that I would like to get to do more of is expert walkthroughs. So the idea behind that was basically I find someone that's good at Fusion and just kind of have them explain the design they've done. And it usually works out pretty good because they're generally pretty good at Fusion, so they're comfortable talking about how they design things, and we all kind of do things different ways. You can make the same thing in a lot of different ways in Fusion, and I always find it interesting just to see the tips and tricks that different people use to get to the ultimate end result, and I learn a lot from them. So hopefully, as my channel grows, I can attract more kind of high quality people that want to do stuff like that, just share how they do things. So, and another thing that I thought about, and hopefully we'll do some, is have like an engineer that, been in the industry or some industry that I'm interested in, 10, 20, 30 years, and have them come on and I just talk to them about a specific thing that I'm trying to learn. Even like a paid situation where I pay, some amount for an hour of their time to essentially teach me something, and I can record that and kind of share that with you guys. So that's my idea for the expert walkthroughs, and hopefully that'll be something I can do more of. And it's especially useful, if I have an idea for a product or something and I don't know how to do something, and then I find a person that has experience in that field and ask them questions, and also hopefully help some of you guys out with that. And then as far as like the product ideas, there's a module within the community that's still there. It's free. It also has kind of a methodology of thinking about things as well, so check that out if you're interested. And then for the right person, I'll also do some paid like custom design work that's in the community, but again, that's really not the point of this video. But if you're interested, it's available for you. So now I want to transition over to the 2025 goals for myself and for the channels. So the goal for Made by J. Willis Studio community is 10,000 people within the group. So right now, again, we're at 1,700. So that's a lot of growth, but I think being more consistent on YouTube and also hopefully getting some more semi-viral content on Instagram and just doing generally interesting things, hopefully more people will join. So if you're part of the group, again, appreciate it, and hopefully you like it, and if you want to invite somebody, that'd be great. So get some of your friends to join. And then as far as my content goals for social media, I'd like to do one short a week, and then also one long form a week, as I mentioned, and then continue kind of the tutorial design shorts that I've been doing, and then maybe add some new formats like the Q&A, and then some like ASMR, like unrehearsed stuff. So it might not look like it, but it is relatively high effort to do some of the design shorts that I do, because it's a lot of different clips, and printing different versions takes some time, and then making modifications. I'm basically doing like a bunch of iterations all in one video and basically shortening it into less than 60 seconds. So those are relatively time consuming, but I see a lot of these kind of easier quote unquote shorts. They get a lot of views and are interesting to watch, but they're not really that hard to make. So that's something that I will maybe play around with. I still want to kind of stick to the high quality, kind of pack a lot of information into these tutorial type shorts, but also might do some new formats as well. And then as far as my social media goals, these are fairly ambitious. Instagram getting 100,000. I'm at almost 50 now, but haven't really had that much growth in the past couple of months. And some of that was because I didn't really post at all when we were purchasing the house, and I did a bunch of DIY stuff during that time. But hopefully when I get back in kind of consistent pattern, that'll kind of pick up again. And then YouTube has actually done pretty good over the past couple of months because some of those other videos started to get more views, and YouTube's kind of weird in that way because you can be kind of flatline and then all of a sudden start getting a lot of attention. So hopefully that continues doing well, but who knows. And then TikTok, it's either gonna die or hopefully I'll get to like 30,000 that's a pretty aspirational goal, but we'll see. And who knows what's going to happen with TikTok with the new administration and all that, but we'll see. But again, really Instagram and YouTube, I think overall are more important from my standpoint anyway. I would like to do better on TikTok as well. So for the product goals, I have one new kit design kind of in development. It's kind of in the organizational family, and I had a concept going and I kind of reconsidered it and really trying to decide what I want to do with that, but I'll have some more information for you on that pretty soon. Also, I'm considering updating the DLAC, the Bambu Lab A1 and A1 mini printers. So the idea is basically make some new files for the DLAC where it can be compatible with those printers. So I actually purchased those a couple of months ago, but just haven't gotten around to making those modifications. So hopefully can do that relatively soon. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but just looking at the size of the printers compared to like the Prusa Mini and the Prusa Mark IV, I think it can make it work, but we'll see. And then some other kind of old prototypes I've never really mentioned before. I might kind of re-explore those. So one is a filament storage solution. So I actually had a designer basically design a filament dryer before there were filament dryers. And to be honest with you, I kind of chickened out on it. The mold cost was around $20,000, and I just didn't really have that type of money in the business at the time and kind of chickened out, to be honest. So now, fast forward 5 or 6 years, now there's a lot of different options. And I think, honestly, my design was going to be fairly successful if I would have gone through with it and if I could have gotten the product to market. But, I didn't. But I still had this idea or this concept of like actual like airtight sealed filament storage solutions. So I think a lot of the issues with the current dryers is they don't actually like seal. So in my mind, at least, if you have a dryer, you need a dryer. The reason you need a dryer is because the filament gets wet. So if you just prevent the filament from getting wet, aka you take out all the humidity with like the desiccant, then you shouldn't need to dry it. So I think the issue that they're having is that they're not actually airtight, and basically the solutions are leaking, like air is getting in there. So if you had like an actual airtight storage product and then could have moderate amount of desiccant inside of it, then it should work, or that's at least my thought process. And I'd also like one that's stacked on its sides. So basically like if you stack the filament like some plates essentially, and then maybe you could hang it on the wall and then also stack it side by side. So I have some concepts for that, and I'll probably share those at some point. The filament storage solution could be better in summary. I've also have some ideas for like 3030 aluminum modular kits. So basically you have the profile and then provide some different design files for that, whether it's like organizational or whether it's like hanging something from a wall, or I think there's just a lot of different things you can do with that. The 3030 stuff is relatively strong and can be really flexible as far as like what you use it for. And then another concept is just a 3D printer workbench. So I think over time the enclosures will become kind of less needed, because essentially all of the 3D printers will have enclosures kind of built on or be enclosed since the Stratus patent kind of expired recently. So I think that is going to kind of gradually dwindle down to not really a product that I'll sell, and then at some point I'll try to transition into something else. So that's kind of why I've been thinking about what's next as far as 3D Sorcerer goes. And I still think the kit ideas, as long as the designs are good and they make sense, I think it'll be something that can be successful, just because it's very flexible. At the end of the day, having all these different prints that you can make to suit whatever specific needs you have is kind of one of the unique aspects of 3D printing. So I think the kits are hopefully something that people will find value in. And then some other products that I've looked into in the past, one is this portable kettlebell design inspired by Tim Ferriss. He's the guy behind 4-Hour Workweek and 4-Hour Body, and he had a pretty popular podcast that I used to listen to a lot. Essentially, the idea is you have like these these like normal plated weights, and then you put it on like this shaft looking thing that's like in a T. And his version is this like cheap stuff from Home Depot, like that are pipes essentially. But I think that I could improve upon that. And I actually had a prototype made, and honestly just kind of got sidetracked and didn't finish it. But there's a product on Amazon now that uses dumbbells as like the portable weight for the kettlebell concept, and it's sold probably like hundreds of thousands of product. So might be something that I'll look back into at some point. And then I've also had a prototype made of this like minimal, like heavy duty stainless steel table. There's a bunch on like Amazon and different places of basically these thin stainless steel tables that are, the corners are bent to kind of reinforce it. But my idea was to make it just basically a plain sheet of like 5mm thick stainless steel, like as the surface, and just make it really minimal and pretty heavy. And the issue with that is that it is heavy, so it's expensive to ship. So I don't know if I'll end up doing that or not, but I actually have one now, and it's holding my dumbbell weight. So I mean, it's pretty strong. It's like over 100 pounds just sitting on it all the time, and it holds it really well. So I'll show you all that at some point as well. And then I've also thought about upgrading my printer. So the Formlabs Form 4 was released pretty recently, and then they also released the Form 4 BL. The L is like their bigger version, and then the B part is like the biomedical grade version. So they're essentially the same, like the 4L and the Form 4 BL, but the BL unlocks like the biomedical grade material. So I think that really the reason I would like this is because, one, you can print really big parts. You can print stuff that's over 13 inches, which is a lot bigger than what I can do on my current resin Form 3 printer. I think it's also just a neat proposition, just from a, not many people on social media have like a big Form 4 BL that they're printing with, so I could definitely make interesting content with it. But it is pretty expensive. It's like basically the cost of like a moderate car, especially when you get like the wash and the UV light, the whole setup. There's like multiple different pieces you need with it, but it does unlock stuff for me as far as like, I have a medical background, and I think that I don't have any medical jobs like lined up at the moment, but that could be something that I could get into, especially if I have the printer. So I'm still thinking about it. I think it'd be cool, but again, it's a big investment, so we'll see if I end up kind of making the plunge with it. And then 2030 goals. So this is pretty aspirational and something that's 5 years off. I thought it'd be interesting to put this here just to kind of put it out into the ether and see if I can make it happen. So first goal is to pay off all my student loans. So I have pretty substantial student loans. I was out of state medical student, so like my med school is like double of what an in-state student would pay. So those are fairly large. Thankfully, I don't have any loans from undergrad because of some scholarships, and also, my family was supporting me, so that was really nice, and I'm lucky for that. But would love to have those all paid off by 2030. And then the other two are kind of revenue related, but I still think it'd be interesting to shoot for. So one is to have two $1 million annual revenue products. So that would probably have to be outside of 3D printing, or 3D printing kits. Have to be kind of a more mass market product to get to those type of numbers, but I think it's possible. I've sold a bunch of different products on Amazon. I just need to have one that's more mass market to get to that type of number. And I think one would be possible, but two is kind of a stretch, which is why I made it two. And then kind of the same thing for the employees. I hired someone a couple of months ago that ended up not working out as like a virtual assistant. I think that having two full-time employees is a pretty aspirational goal for 2030, and ideally that'd be like in person, not like a virtual freelancer type person. So those are some goals I just came up with. I mean, I think that, again, they're all kind of stretch from where I am right now, but I think that's something that I can shoot for going forward. So that's all I have for this video. Let me know what you think about it, if you have any comments or thoughts. And again, appreciate you following along, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.